Edward VI, the only legitimate son of King Henry VIII, was crowned King of England in 1547 at just 9 years old. To the people he was presented as a symbol of renewal, a fragile but divine continuation of Tudor power. Painted portraits showed a pale, obedient child dressed in stiff royal fabrics, his posture forced into dignity far beyond his years. But behind the throne, behind the velvet and gold, Edward's body was already betraying him. From an early age, Edward appeared unnaturally thin. His limbs were narrow, his shoulders sharp beneath heavy garments. His skin held a waxy pallor, stretched tight across bones that seemed too prominent for a living child. Courtiers noticed how his hands trembled when he lifted them, how his fingers curled inward when he tried to rest them, as if his body resisted stillness. As he aged, the boy king did not grow stronger. He grew stranger. Edward's movements became rigid and mechanical. When he walked, he did so slowly, carefully, as though each step required calculation. His head often tilted forward, chin slightly tucked, eyes looking up rather than ahead. It gave him an unsettling, almost unnatural posture. When he smiled, it never reached his eyes. When he spoke, his voice was thin, dry, and often interrupted by coughing fits he struggled to hide behind embroidered sleeves. The court pretended not to see. Up close, Edward's appearance disturbed even the most loyal servants. Dark circles hollowed beneath his eyes, making them appear too large for his face. His lips cracked constantly, bleeding at the corners. His breath carried a sour, sickly odor, noticed by those forced to stand near him during long ceremonies. His cheeks sank inward over time, giving his face a skeletal sharpness that clashed with the crown resting atop his head. Physicians whispered but offered nothing useful. Treatments only worsened him. Bloodletting left him weaker. Poultices stained his sheets. Tonics made him vomit. Each cure stripped something else from him: strength, color, coherence. As Edward's body failed, his mind retreated inward. He became increasingly withdrawn, staring for long stretches without blinking. When addressed, he sometimes responded too slowly, as if pulling his thoughts from deep water. Other times he spoke with unsettling intensity, repeating phrases about sin, corruption, and divine judgment far beyond the understanding expected of a boy his age. His hands betrayed him most. Courtiers watched as his fingers twitched uncontrollably during council meetings. At times his hands clenched suddenly, nails digging into his palms until servants rushed to pry them open. Sweat soaked his gloves even in cold rooms. When he raised his arm to gesture, it shook violently, forcing him to lower it again in embarrassment. Those closest to him began to avoid eye contact. The court itself transformed as Edward worsened. Where once there was laughter and flattery, there was now silence. Nobles leaned away from the throne unconsciously. Ladies covered their mouths with lace when he coughed. Men exchanged nervous glances when Edward's breathing grew wet and labored during audiences. His presence became uncomfortable. The boy king's skin grew increasingly blotched, marked by strange discolorations. His chest rose unevenly beneath layers of fabric. At times, he struggled to breathe, mouth opening wide as he gasped, eyes bulging slightly in panic. Servants pretended not to notice. Advisors spoke faster, desperate to leave the room. Edward's bedchamber became a place of dread. There, stripped of ceremony, his condition was impossible to ignore. His body was painfully thin, ribs visible beneath the skin, his spine pressed sharply against mattresses. His legs trembled even at rest. Fever left him soaked, hair plastered to his skull, eyes glassy and unfocused. His breath rattled. When he coughed, his whole body convulsed, leaving him trembling and exhausted. Stains appeared on his linens, quickly removed before anyone outside the inner circle could see. The smell in the room was metallic and sour, a mixture of sickness and decay that clung to the air no matter how many herbs were burned. The court reacted with growing disgust disguised as concern. Faces twisted subtly when they thought no one was watching. Eyebrows furrowed, lips tightened. Some courtiers refused to approach the bed, standing rigid near the walls. Others held perfumed cloths near their faces. Fear spread, not just of Edward's illness, but of what it represented: instability, weakness, death. Edward noticed. Despite his failing body, his eyes remained painfully aware. He saw the hesitation before people bowed. He saw the way servants flinched when he reached for them. He felt the room recoil as his condition worsened. And yet, he clung to control. He forced himself upright during meetings, even when it caused visible pain. He insisted on speaking, his voice cracking, his breath shallow. His gestures became sharp, almost desperate, as if asserting his authority through movement alone. Each effort left him trembling, jaw clenched, sweat pouring down his temples. Time was running out. By 1553, Edward was barely recognizable. His face had sharpened into something severe and unnatural. His eyes appeared too large, set deep in dark hollows. His skin stretched thin and dry, cracking easily. His lips peeled constantly. His neck looked too weak to support his head, which often lolled slightly to one side when he was tired. The court no longer hid its fear. Meetings were shortened. Visitors were limited. Advisors whispered in corners, glancing toward closed doors. Succession plans were discussed in hushed tones, as if speaking them aloud might hasten his end. Edward's final days were marked by disturbing stillness. He lay rigid in bed, eyes open but unfocused. His hands twitched occasionally, fingers curling and uncurling like something alive beneath the skin. His breathing became shallow, uneven. At times, his mouth opened silently, as if trying to speak words that never came. Those present felt unease bordering on revulsion. When death finally came, it was quiet and deeply unsettling. Edward's body stiffened unnaturally, his jaw clenched. His eyes remained open. Those in the room froze, unsure whether he was truly gone. No one rushed forward, no one spoke. A king died, and relief followed. Afterward, the court moved quickly to erase the discomfort. Official accounts softened his decline. Portraits were retouched. Words like peaceful replaced agonizing. The grotesque reality of Edward Vi's death was buried beneath ceremony and propaganda. But those who saw him up close never forgot. They remembered the shaking hands, the twisted posture, the hollow eyes staring back at them. They remembered how the court recoiled, how fear and disgust filled the room long before death arrived. Edward VI was crowned a king, but he lived and died as a fragile body collapsing under the weight of power, disease, and the silent horror of being watched as he decayed. If this is the kind of dark history you want to hear, subscribe to Medieval Decay. Would you have survived life inside a royal court where even a king was treated as something fragile and unsettling? Tell us in the comments.